Welcome to Puck Academy, a show about how hockey players grow on and off the ice. I'm Jason Jacobs, the host, and each week I talk with players, coaches, and experts shaping the future of player development. Today's guest is Sean Skahan. Sean is a former longtime NHL strength and conditioning coach and now the owner of Skahan Sports Conditioning. For the last 20 years, he's been a strength and conditioning coach in the NHL while working with the Minnesota Wild and the Anaheim Ducks, where they won the Stanley Cup in 2007. He's trained thousands of NHL players throughout this time. And prior to the professional level, he worked at the Division I college level with BU, BC, University of North Dakota, and University of Minnesota. Now, Sean did not grow up a hockey guy. He actually grew up playing football, but he fell into strength and conditioning for hockey, and now he's done so at the highest levels of the game for the longest time. Recently, he's come back around to the youth level, working with kids, prep players, juniors, etc., to help them achieve their goals. We have a great discussion in this episode about how the sport has been evolving, how strength and conditioning has been evolving from the time Sean first started getting into it decades ago to today, the state of the game, especially at the youth level, and then with a strength and conditioning hat on, how young is too young, how much is too much, how personalized should it be, how standardized should it be for ages and ability levels, and Sean's thoughts on where all of this is going. It's a great discussion, and I hope you enjoy it. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. I appreciate it.
So only the video people will be able to see, but this is a book that you wrote, Total Hockey Training, and I've had this book for years. In the hockey strength and conditioning world, you're a big deal, and I just happened to notice, I think you might have liked some of my Instagram clips of episodes or something, and then I was like, oh, that's Sean Skahan, and I went to your profile, and you were following Puck Academy, so I was like, oh, I got to invite this guy on the show.
Absolutely. Doing a great job.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Have you actually listened to the show before?
I'm guilty of sitting there on my phone and watching reels. Yeah.
I think a lot of people have heard the clip, like exponentially more people have heard the clips than hear the show, because that's like the ADD world that we all live in now.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, as I said, thanks for coming on. Maybe for starters, you're so deep in the hockey strength and conditioning world, but you weren't a hockey guy growing up, correct?
Correct. Right. I grew up in Quincy, North Quincy.
I grew up in Newton, so right around the corner.
Right. Yeah. So I grew up in North Quincy, played football in high school, played football at UMass Boston, which the program is now defunct. Got into strength and conditioning in college. And for the Massachusetts listeners out there, I interned under Mike Boyle back in the summer of '98.
All the Mass people know him, but I bet a lot of people outside of Mass know him as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, 100%. 100% they do. One of the foremost leading experts, hockey, strength and conditioning, sports performance. And I got to know him and work with him. And then I kind of fell into hockey. And that wasn't the intention. I was a football player. I thought, I would be the strength and conditioning coach on the sideline at football games, whatever, NFL, college football, whatever. But then I got into hockey, training hockey players, and that's how my path turned into.
I mean, so many people come on the show, and I see with my own eyes. I grew up playing the sport, and it's just such a different game now. As the game's evolved over the last several decades, how has your craft evolved kind of under the hood supporting the game?
Yeah, great question. When I first started like in the NHL early 2000s, 24 years ago now. Yeah, it was different. It wasn't as important or stressed upon that it is today, for sure. It's a 365 day per year process that maybe back then it might have been just the off season and a little bit during the season, but now it's so important across all levels.
As the focus on it has increased, has the craft itself changed in terms of best practices and, whether it's frequency, whether it's exercises, whether it's, misconceptions that were back then that, that are now better understood now? Like what's different?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a large push, or every team was doing a lot of this aerobic work, riding the bike for long periods of time, with the intention of trying to increase your VO2 max. That's because that happened in like the 80s in the NHL. That was your typical strength and conditioning program. There was aerobic base push from researchers or scientists, and coaches kind of got ahead of their time and said, oh, we need to be doing this stuff to help our players. And it morphed. It slowly turned into, okay, well, let's look at the game. You have to have strength. You have to have speed. You have to have power. And that has kind of changed the way things, change in a way. I think when you can say, okay, well, we can help younger kids get faster, get stronger, get more explosive to help them play better on the ice. And when you think about those methods and training ideas that can help that process, I think that's what it's turned into. And there's less aerobic training is still important. Don't get me wrong, but that is just a small piece of the puzzle now, if that makes sense.
It does. And I mean, I've heard you say that when people think, oh, I need to train in the off season, that their first instinct is more ice time, and actually less ice time and more, of the stuff under the hood and strength and conditioning to better prepare players to come back, more powerful, quicker starts, stronger on their feet, better strides, whatever, right? There's so much that can be done off the ice. I'm curious, when you think about designing a program for a player, is it mostly just age-based? Is it position-based? Is it customized for each player? And, is it ability level based? Like how do you, how does the program scale as you go up the age ranks? And also how does it personalize or how should it?
Yeah, with our programs, we basically stay to one model for a whole off season. And the younger kids are going to learn how to train properly. And what the difference is how much load is used from a younger kid to an older player. And it's twofold. Like the younger kids are learning the system. They're learning how to train properly. They're learning how to show up every day on time, put in the work that they need to do, be coachable, be taught how to do things properly and execute exercises proficiently with technical instruction. The older players, a lot of them, they have to get into that off-season training mode where we're now going, okay, we're coming out of a season, we're beat up, we're tired, we need to kind of reestablish some movement patterns, some strength levels, and we got to build from there. But the program itself, there's not too many differences in what, say, our U14 or our Bantam players are doing versus our college athletes.
And when you look across sports, how much stays consistent that's just kind of fundamentals that anyone who cares about strength and conditioning and as an athlete should do, and how much of it should get customized on a per sport basis?
There isn't really a need for too much customization. There really isn't. Like, we're trying to, like I said, the game is faster. You have to be stronger, explosive. You got to be lean. You got to be able to withstand injuries. So a program that can help with all those is going to be the most beneficial.
So my son he'll be a U14 next year, and people at his age, I feel, I mean, he's been working out for a few years, but really in the early years, it was much less about like making real progress. And it was more just about exposure, habits, loving the gym, the camaraderie, right? But I feel like now, and I would love your input, but like that's what's starting to feel like when kids get to this age that you can really start dialing it up. But season's almost over. And just as a dad, I think about, all right, and he thinks about it too, but he's just like, yeah, I want to train in the off season and I want to get better so I can come back strong. But it's like, well, what does that mean? He's like, I don't know. And then And then he'll ask me, what does that mean? And like, I played the game growing up. I played sort of played in college. And I'm like, I don't know. Right. And it's like, all right, like, do I go to Instagram? Do I, and there's great gyms around here. Right. But then it's even like, all right, should it be twice a week? Should it be 3 times a week? Should it be 4 times a week? Should we do edge work? Like, should he be doing cardio on his own? Should he do hill runs? Like, it's like, I have no idea. So like, is there what are the best practices? Like how should anyone in my shoes think about that? Like, where do you even start?
See, I'm a parent of hockey players as well. And I know what I know from a professional standpoint and my opinions on how an off season should be addressed. And I'm sure it's the same in Massachusetts. And I just posted this the other day. So this is the time of year, the end of the season, when a coach, whether that be college, junior, high school, pro, or a general manager might say to a player, hey, you need to get faster and stronger. They don't say you need to be better at being F1 on the forecheck. You need to be better at being, the third guy high on the forecheck, whatever. They don't say that stuff. What do they say? It's you need to get stronger, you need to get faster. And so what I see, especially here in Minnesota, it's parents get caught up into like that FOMO, fear of missing out. And
in
it's
youth hockey?
No.
Yeah.
And hey, when my older son was younger, I am guilty of that as well. I think, maybe he should do this because these good players are doing that, so maybe we should check that out. But you have to be not afraid. You can't be afraid of going against the grain when it comes to your child's development. So going back to what those coaches are looking for, I want you to get stronger. I want you to get faster. So go do that. Go do that, especially in the early months of the summer. Focus on that. That should be your priority. Showing up every day with the intention of trying to get stronger, trying to get faster off the ice, so that when you return to the ice, you can have those physical improvements. Now, what happens is, I'm going to do that. I'm all in on that. But there's skating sessions that are going on 5 days a week in the mornings, and I can do my skates, then I can do my workouts, and then no, that doesn't work that way, especially when you're looking at the months of May, June, July, when your season starts in October, November. Why won't that work? Because you're trying to do too many things all at once when your focus should be on getting faster and getting stronger. What happens is athletes, you look at in-season athletes, like they're tired, they're burnt out, they're practicing, they have games, very stressful, not only from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint as well. So you're going to come out of the season and then continue what you're doing in the season, but also trying to get bigger, faster, stronger while you're still playing hockey every day. And what I see is kids can't recover. They can't recover from their workouts because they're skating every day. And if you're going to think about improving on the ice, how are you going to improve on the ice if you're trying to recover from your strength workout? So that's where I'm at on things. And it's a tough hill to climb to educate people on this, because it goes back to FOMO. I'm going to be, my kid's going to be left behind. Well, I tend to think the other way. If you work on your strength and power, speed, and get in better shape, maybe do some skill stuff a few times during the early parts of the summer, whether it's a power skating coach or stick handling on the ice, I get it. But going to the rink 4 or 5 times a week for an hour, pretty much practice sessions, is not going to help you get better. It's a long-winded answer, but that's where I'm at with that.
Okay, so if you put aside the skating, and I mean, and it won't be blank slate, but let's just assume that there is no on ice. We're only talking about the strength and conditioning, the power and speed that you're suggesting. okay, if you're going to fill that bucket and you're starting with a clean slate, how do you optimize for it? Like how does one get stronger and faster? Like what frequency? What should they do? What duration? What intensity should they be going at? How should they think about recovery? How do they know when their body, when they're, being soft and they should dial it up versus when they should, be smart and dial it back? Any of that?
I think you have to be able to compartmentalize the fact that, okay, this is what I'm going to try to do this summer, for example. And what we do is we do four sessions a week for 11 weeks. We started mid-June here in Minnesota. Both of our facilities, we have the same program going on. And each day, it's either a high-intensity day or a low-intensity day. That's 4 days per week. Twice a week, we're working on our, quote, say, leg power, sprints, plyometrics, Olympic-style lifting to increase that force production. And our easier days are kind of a more upper body emphasis days, kind of lower intensity, but we're still pushing the weights with kind of these not really taxing exercises as, say, leg exercises. And we do our conditioning twice a week on those days as well. And they're full body workouts. The emphasis is on trying to get better over time. That's what it is. That's what we're trying to do. The day in and day out, showing up, being on time, putting in the work, smart work. We're not, we understand that we can't we're not killing anybody, but we're not pushing the envelope that hard on a daily basis. But twice a week we are. And then we want to try to increase that the next week, that we're going to get a little bit more out of them on those days all throughout the summer. And the result is when you look back at the end of the summer, you're like, wow, I've gotten better at my sprinting. I've gotten better at my power output. I've gotten better at I can do more chin-ups. I'm leaner. I'm faster. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
One of the things I wrestle with as a dad, right, is that I don't know what I'm doing. People like you do know what you're doing. And so presumably your kid will get better results if they go to someone like you versus, if they listen to someone like me, plus who wants to listen to dad, right? So in that realm, it makes total sense to go to someone like you. But if you're, scheduling out other stuff, right, then, it's kind of like why they say don't feed wild animals, right? Because they don't learn how to hunt, right? So what have you seen in terms of youth development? And I mean, I guess, so I'm asking you this with your professional hat on, but I'm also just asking you this as a dad, right? And because the ability to hunt and seek and be hungry for it, right, is a skill in itself. So how do you balance that with surrounding kids with experts if you're trying to help shepherd them through their development journey?
Yeah, I think it's not searching, but being around the right people who have the best interest in your child.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. And there's some good people out there. And what do they know? What is their experience? What can they bring to the table in that area that you would like to see your child improve upon? I think that's important. You have to vet out the process. It's also important to look at, okay, who have they worked with before? Who have they done what they say they do with? And I think that's important. I think, as a parent for my own kids, I'm also good about vetting out those people as well, all those programs. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that'd be good for you, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing and believing in the process that everything's going to work out in the long run.
If you look at the philosophies that you've come to believe in, champion, implement, and you look at some of the other top strength and conditioning people around the game, how much consistency is there from one strength and conditioning coach to another at a given level, and how much is kind of someone's unique special sauce in your experience?
Going back to what I said earlier, who have they worked with before? Have their athletes, their clients, have they achieved success? Have they gotten results? Are they athletes that don't get hurt often? Are they athletes that are good people? But I think when you're measuring strength and conditioning coaches, sports performance people, I look at it like, okay, can the coach get the kids to do what they would like them to do? And do those kids keep showing up? Do they keep coming back? Do they keep coming back? Or are their parents, shoppers? Are they looking around for what might be, I don't know, cheaper or better in their minds when they don't really know what's better? And that's what I see is the consistency aspect of people that have been doing it a long time. Looking at, again, like I said, who have they worked with before? What kind of results did their clients achieve? And that's how you measure that versus someone who might say they work with, this player, that player, but it's not the case.
I mean, I've heard you say on other shows that you're a Boyle guy, and I take that to mean, you're kind of trained by and maybe ascribed to similar development philosophies. Although, of course, correct me if I'm mistaken about that. But when you look at the development philosophies of other people, at his level or at your level, are like if you had a if you took the 10 or 25 of them or whatever that you respect the most, right? Like would you guys be kind of singing the same tune, or are there wildly different philosophies, and are there rights and wrongs, or is it just like, no, there's like multiple ways to get there, and you can just choose the one that resonates best with you?
Yeah, there's a lot of brilliant strength and conditioning coaches out there, and one thing I like to see is like, okay, do their athletes keep going there? Do their athletes go there and do they not get hurt? Like there is some places or coaches where their athletes will get hurt doing stuff that they're getting injured while training. And that's like the rule number one. You do no harm. You cannot do any harm as a strength coach. Your athletes need to feel better after the off season or whatever, and say, I can't wait for next summer. Like, that's what I love about my clients. They can't wait for next summer. I feel great. I'm going to go into the season. I'm feeling fantastic. And what I've always liked about Mike's stuff is that he has the ability of preventing athletes from getting hurt in the gym while getting better. And I think that's important. That's what good strength and conditioning coaches do.
When you look at some of the reasons why at some gyms athletes might tend to get hurt, what are the causes of that, and what are the best ways to avoid that as a strength and conditioning coach?
Well, you got to be good at your craft. You got to know what an exercise might not work with the clients you're working with. For example, I don't know, I'll just say back squats. You got to know your athletes. Like, you can't have an 11-year-old performing back squats. Now, with an exercise like back squats, for example, there's a lot of different ways that an exercise can be executed. And when they don't have the strength or the mobility, and a lot of it is too much weight doing it during an exercise. And you have to pick the right exercises where that gives you the least chance of getting injured while using appropriate loads. And I think that's important. A good strength and conditioning coach has the eye to see that, what an exercise should look like, and what an exercise shouldn't look like. If I said, yeah, you know what I'm saying. And then being able to correct what doesn't look good in an exercise. And so we're not a Planet Fitness or a, I don't know, Anytime Fitness, whatever you guys have in Massachusetts. You don't just go and do your workouts. No, you're coached. You're coached the same way you'd be coached on the ice, with, this is how it's going to look. This is how I want you to do it. Okay, that looks good. Let's tweak this, tweak that. Good job. Okay, let's maybe put 5 more pounds on the bar in the next set. So it's choosing the right exercises and being able to coach them. And I think that's what a good strength and conditioning coach can do, should do, as well as having a long-term plan in that process to help them get better.
In terms of the the methodology that you've come to embrace, is it if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I found something that works and I keep this consistent, or are you continuing to learn and evolve your craft? What's your philosophy there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I hate to say the word old school. When someone says they're old school, I think that's a way of saying they're lazy or they're arrogant. But no, we're always trying to learn and grow and get better. But we still have our basics that we stay true to. For example, we still do pull-ups and chin-ups. Like, okay, I love to see my young athletes get stronger at pull-ups and chin-ups. I think it can help to prevent them from getting a shoulder injury in a game of hockey. I think it also helps with eliminating the need for kids to think they have to bench press more. But no, let's do more chin-ups. And then what I see is their bench presses go up when they can do more chin-ups, which is great. But I've been doing pull-ups and chin-ups for 26 years now, and I don't see that ever coming out of the program until someone shows me or I learn a new exercise that could tell me, hey, this is better than that. So there are exercises like that, and our program does continue to evolve, but we still stick with the basics. We still do one-leg squats. We will bench press with a barbell. And we're always trying to evolve and learn, and whether it's mobility exercises or, quote, core exercises, anything we can do to help our players, our athletes get better, I'm all for that. And we're going to do our best that we can to find out what is being done at a good level. And I also have to trust the people I'm learning from.
What are your thoughts on measurement and data, progress tracking, et cetera? And how do you incorporate that or not incorporate that into your work?
We don't measure, for example, like there are situations where an NHL performance coach might send me their clients, their players' measurements, who's going to work with me during the off season, and we'll sit down and look at those numbers and metrics and all that. But we don't do evaluations on our kids. I'm not a big fan of pinpointing what a young 12-year-old, a 13-year-old kid might not be good at. And I don't think that's a good positive way to get them into the training process. But yeah, we do measure things during the summer. For example, we'll measure vertical jumps. We measure our 10-yard dash speeds all along the course of the program. But yeah, like I worked in the NHL for 20 years, and every preseason we'd do measurements on our players, and we would sit down, evaluate, okay, what does player X need to work on? What does player Y need to work on? And so, yeah, we don't bring it to the private sector like I did in the NHL, but we certainly look at metrics over the course of a summer, and yeah, go from there. Nowadays, like in the NHL, you're not allowed to test your athletes anymore, which is crazy. It's mind-boggling to me. And so I don't know, but I think the private sector people will have the ability to keep measurements because athletes want to know where they're at. They want to know what they need to work on. They want to know what they need to improve on. And so that's where I think that's going.
So how does that translate in terms of the equipment? I mean, increasingly it seems like every piece of equipment, even the old trusty staples, can be connected if you want them to be in terms of sending data to the cloud. I mean, are you a fan? Are you leaning into that? Or do you just kind of, stick with the old school in that regard?
A little bit of both. We do some measurements. I use my phone to measure our time 10-yard dashes and our vertical jumps. But I don't know. I struggle with that in the NHL because I saw it going into a more science, sports science, which is great. But I always thought that you have to have the ability to communicate with your athletes on a daily basis, and it can't always be through an app or a cloud. And you have to have the ability to, hey, how was your day? How are you feeling today? And a lot of times I think you have to have the ability to have that conversation with a player. Maybe they were -5 the night before. Maybe they didn't get the amount of ice time that they felt they deserved. Maybe something happened at home, like they're fighting with their spouse or whatever. The kids are sick or something like that. So you have to like talk to them about that instead of looking at the cloud and being like, oh, so-and-so he's a 5 out of 10 today. Like I haven't talked to him at all, but I struggle with that. I did struggle with that towards the last few years. I'm like, man, like I can see where this is going, but I don't know if that's a good thing. I think you have to have the personal skills, and your athletes appreciate that as well.
One tension that I observe is, increasingly youth sports, youth hockey is getting professionalized earlier and earlier, and there's more pressure to specialize earlier and earlier, and you're playing year round and stuff like that. You've, as you said, you spent decades in the NHL working with some of the highest level players in the game. I could see a world where it's like, take someone like you and put them with the kids in the development program that are like 6, 7, 8 years old, and like start them early and like get them going, and they'll have such an advantage over time. And then there's another school of thought that's like, let them be kids, like don't burn them out, keep it fun, go play street hockey, go fishing, and go play other sports. Like don't be overscheduled, right? You're also a dad. How do you think about that tension, and did you wrestle with it at all with your own kids, especially given just how equipped you are to whip them into shape?
Yeah, it's hard for parents not to get sucked into, my kid is good at hockey, he should be playing it year round. It's hard. I've been there. It's hard to not get sucked into that. But I think playing multiple sports as long as you can before it starts to get really serious. Now, that's the gray area. When does it start to get serious? And no, I have seen kids who, honestly, I've seen kids who have like just been year-round hockey players and have done really well. I have seen those. They are out there. However, for the most part, the ones who just play hockey on a year-round basis are going to burn out. They're not going to enjoy hockey that much anymore. They're going to look back and say, I wish I would have played soccer, tennis, golf, baseball, football, to make them more well-rounded. And what I always tell parents is like, I always ask them, what other sports do they play? Oh, they just play hockey. I'm like, he's 12 or she's 12. Like, no, they need to be playing other sports. Make them play another sport. Why? Because the skills that can be taught at a different sport can relate to hockey, baseball, hand-eye coordination, soccer, definitely, agility or controlling the puck in your feet, or tennis, lateral movement. That's what I've seen even back when I worked in the NHL, like a lot of those guys were outstanding baseball players in high school. They were box lacrosse players in Canada. They were basketball players, athletes, football players. Like they were multiple athletes before they chose to play hockey. Now with my own kids, my older guy, when we lived in California, he played soccer, he played lacrosse, he played flag football, he played baseball. And then when we moved to Minnesota, it was baseball, always played basketball. And then it kind of became hockey on a full-time basis around 13, 14. My younger guy is an outstanding golfer. He plays hockey. He played lacrosse. He played baseball. You gotta be well-rounded. You gotta be well-rounded. And what I unfortunately see is like 8 or 9-year-old kids just playing hockey. And I don't think that's a recipe for success.
Another thing that I think about is as a dad, right? I have a kid, and I mean, beyond hockey, it's like you think about like how to raise a good human and how they're happy and good habits and, friendships and what, so like that. But even within hockey, it's like, okay, like I want to optimize their off-season training, let's say, right? And I get that maybe on ice is overdone and off ice is underdone, right? And so point taken, right? But like there's probably some other stuff you're going to want to do. Like it might involve like dialing in nutrition. It might involve edge work. It might involve like specific skills you want to work on. I mean, it might be watching video and work on IQ, right? And so you talked about how you have a methodology, and you didn't use the word one size fits all, but it seemed like within a certain age group, like it's like, all right, like here's what we're going to do for the group. But one kid might be coming in that's totally bought into the like strength, speed and power is where my focus is, and another it might be only 20% of what they're doing. Who's thinking about the overall kid, and how important is it that as if strength and conditioning is your lane, that you take kind of a holistic view in terms of what role strength and conditioning should play. So it's like general contractor versus subs, right? Like strength and conditioning is a very important sub, and actually your case is like maybe it should like be more than a sub, right? But like are there other things that are important for that kid besides strength and conditioning that are out of your lane, but that should be coordinated with?
Yeah, I think, having a good social life for any athlete is fun. I think, I remember the pro professional players off season should be training, golfing, and then going on the lake or fishing, whatever. Like that's great. I think for young kids, no, like they might have to work a part-time job. They might have to balance their social life. They might have to make sure that they're getting their 8+ hours a night of sleep, their hydration, their nutrition. It's balancing all that and learning how to manage their time with the things that are important. And that what I see is kids they're trying to do that with too many things, whether it's another skating session or another power skating lesson or whatever. And I think you have to kind of scale it down a little bit, especially after the season.
I mean, it's great that like the athletic excellence is growing so much in youth sports. Like, I mean, it's impressive, like what these young kids can do. At the same time, it's harder and harder not to make it almost like a full-time job at younger and younger ages. And I mean, one thing I wrestle with is that, in the grand scheme of things, except if you're like, 0.001% or whatever, like you're not going to make a living doing it. And so everybody ends up in beer league and like the journey's over, and you're still at a very small percentage of your life has passed. And then you go out into the world. And so like optimizing for the long view seems so important as a parent, but increasingly, if you want your kid to be competitive, like it needs to almost take over your life. So like at what point are you, is it a positive thing to help your kid work towards mastery in something they love? And at what point, should you kind of put your foot down and say like this is a line we're just not going to cross?
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that you provide your child with everything that you possibly can to allow their dreams, not yours, their dreams to happen. Provide them with the resources, whatever you can do. But like you said, all roads lead to beer hockey, no matter what. Unless you're Jaromir Jagr, who I think he's still playing pro. Like it's unbelievable.
He's like, is he what, late 40s now?
Jagr's probably 55.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Maybe 50, 54. I don't know. But he's still
I'm
playing
49 and
professionally.
I feel like an old man. So I can't believe that.
Anyone else that's retired, like, they're playing beer league hockey if they're going to play hockey again. So yeah, you have to also make sure that they have, I wouldn't call it a backup plan because that's putting all your eggs in one basket, but have other things that they enjoy doing. So if it's school, if it's a profession they want to do eventually, you have to have those things in the back of your mind as well. Because, like you said, it's a small percentage of these kids playing the game. A very small percentage are going to play in the National Hockey League. And
Sean, I want to bring the conversation back around to your work. You spent so much time working with players at the highest level of the game, and then in the last few years, it looks like you went out on your own and you're working with kids. Maybe not just kids, but talk about that transition. Why it happened, what you're up to now. How it's different and how it's going.
Yeah, I was in a situation where did it for a long period of time, and I hate to say it, hate to use the word burnout, but I found myself working with really talented players during the in-season part of the process, and it was awesome. It was awesome to work with such highly gifted players. See them do what they do on the ice, but I was missing the development process. Like I was missing that. I missed the off seasons of seeing, I used to love it when rookies or 18-year-old kids would come in and they'd buy into the training. Next thing you know, they're stars. Like I'm thinking, there's so many current and future Hall of Famers that I had the opportunity to work with, that it was a lot of fun to say I was a small part of that process. But I miss when you're working in the NHL, you're missing out on a lot of things. You're missing on a lot of family life and a lot of your kids' games or events. And so that wore on me a little bit. So I went out on my own, and I get my rocks off now when a kid makes the varsity team that played JV the year before. Or in Minnesota, we call it, it's tough to compare to Massachusetts, but in Minnesota, it's AA hockey is the highest level for Bantams and Peewees. I love it when a kid makes the AA team. I love it when a kid gets a college hockey scholarship, or a kid gets drafted in the NHL, or a kid gets tendered by a NOL team or tendered by a USHL team, and they go and make those teams and they do great things. Like that's my passion. That's my purpose, I think, is to help hockey players get to that next level, whatever it may be. And for them to, just see the smile on their face, like, hey, I made varsity, or I made JV. Like, yeah, I like to help the average kids get above average. The above average kids become excellent. Like that's what I really enjoy doing now.
And if you just kind of step outside of yourself and take a bird's eye view and look at the state of the game, and we'll say at the youth level, because that's where you're spending a lot of your time these days. What do you see? What do you feel good about? What you wish was different?
I mean, did you watch that gold medal game?
I did.
Oh my God. Like that. Are you kidding me? The speed, the explosiveness, the ability of these kids to make plays. And like Macklin Celebrini, my son played with him in Bantam years. Like to see him play like that.
I mean, his dad comes out of your world, but for basketball, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Rick Celebrini's a physical therapist. I got to know him when he worked with the Vancouver Canucks. He was ahead of his time with groin rehab back in the day and hip rehab. And I'm sure he's still doing that with the Golden State Warriors. But you watch the game now and it's like, oh my God. Like I say it on I made a post, like that was probably the best hockey game that I've ever seen. When you appreciate in the goaltending as well, like they appreciate the talent and the ability of these people, these guys to make these plays at such a high level. That's where the game is. Like that's where it is right now. So, and it's going to trickle down. It's going to trickle down to NHL, obviously, college hockey, junior hockey, high school hockey. And that's like, if the state tournament in Minnesota, the state championship game, unbelievable. I felt like I was watching two NHL teams. And it was, that's where the game is. It's fast. It's explosive. It's these ability of these kids to find open ice and open space and to play heavy on pucks, whether it's, you're defending or you're trying to forecheck and hold on to the puck. Like it's all strength and conditioning can help that if you're not good at those things.
And what do you wish was different?
I love the NHL playoffs. I love it. Why? Because they go 5-on-5 until the game's over. And the Olympics was awesome, but I would love to see that overtime at 5-on-5. I get it. TV wants the games over quicker. I get it. But there's, there's nothing like, I remember in Anaheim, we had a 5 overtime win over Dallas. And it's just like, that's playoff hockey. And it's like my son plays for a Beanpot school. Now the Beanpot goes 3-on-3 overtime. Like I remember like watching, 2 or 3 overtime Beanpot championships when I was a kid. Like, why do I don't know. Maybe because I know my son isn't going to be out there 3-on-3, but I love, that's what I love about NHL hockey, NHL playoff hockey is they go 5-on-5. And I know it's probably not say that we should go back to that because it's not going to happen, but I don't know.
Sean, just a logistical question, but for anyone that's inspired by your work and wants to try it out for themselves or for their kids, do you have to be in Minnesota to do it? Do you offer virtual? Like how do people find you and who can work with you?
Oh, I have I have 2 gyms here in Minnesota, and my website is skahansports.com. I also have year-round training program, an online program that's on trainheroic.com. And it's all the links are in my bio on my Instagram page, Skahan. I have a YouTube channel. I have my own podcast, actually, the Total Hockey.
I saw that.
The Total Hockey Training Podcast. I've had some great guests on there, strength and conditioning coaches, sport performance coaches. A lot of NHL players have been on, scouts. I've had advisors on. I've had some highly regarded people in the field of hockey on there. And so my Instagram page is probably my best place, Skahan. My business is skahansports.com, and my online training is available in the links at my Instagram page.
Nice. And Sean, is there anything I didn't ask that you wish I did, or any parting words for listeners?
Yeah, I think as a parent, I know it's tough. I've been there. I've been at games. I've maybe watched my kid make a mistake or two, but it's fun to watch games. Like, don't get me wrong. As a parent, it's so fun to watch your kids compete, and hockey's such a great sport, and it can get crazy. And just take a step back and let it all play out. Let it all play out. And by you yelling at him to skate or shoot, 1, they don't hear you. And 2, if they did hear you, they're blocking you out. So you just, I don't know, you kind of look like an idiot sometimes when you're yelling things across it, and leave the refs alone. I mean, God, these young kids that are trying to ref, they want to ref hockey. That's what they want to do. They're not perfect. They're not going to get every call right. They don't have video review, at the Canton Rec Complex, like by the penalty box. Like, just leave them alone. And just take a deep breath and relax.
Great point to end on. Sean, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. And your stuff sounds awesome. And I read the book, so I know it is. But best of luck. Keep in touch. And maybe I'll get my son into some of your stuff too.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks for listening to Puck Academy. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast and share it with someone serious about their game. See you next week.